Today in the Empire State, legislators in Albany are on the verge of making New York the 6th state to legalize same-sex marriage. With legislation only one vote shy of passing, they're very, very close. Further south, the president is wining and dining the gay community at a re-election fundraiser in Manhattan. He'll likely tout some of his first-term accomplishments to the crowd, like repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, calling for the repeal of the Defense of Marriage Act, and signing hate crimes legislation specifically protecting gay, lesbian, and transgender Americans. It's a pretty solid list. But those successes aren't enough for everyone. Protesters are rallying outside tonight's fundraising event, angry over the president's failure to come out fully in support of marriage equality. He's expected to address the issue tonight, reiterating his support of civil unions nationwide while letting the states decide marriage on their own. But he's indicated recently that that stance may change someday.
My feelings about this are constantly evolving. My baseline is a strong civil union that provides them the protections and the legal rights that married couples have, and I think I think that's the right thing to do. But I recognize that from their perspective, it is not enough, and I think this is something that we're going to continue to debate, and I personally am going to continue to wrestle with going forward.
So, has the president done enough on this? Let's talk about it. Joining me now to discuss this issue, Lieutenant Dan Choi. He's a former Army officer who was fired under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. He was forced out last year after serving an extended tour in Iraq. And Brian Elner, a senior strategist for Human Rights Campaign. He's joining us from Albany, where he's on the front lines of the battle for marriage equality in New York. Great to have both of you here. Dan, let me start with you. Has the president done enough?
No. And I believe for gay rights and for our LGBT community, the alarm clock is blaring. Blaring and telling everybody to wake up. This president continues to push the snooze button, and I think it is a grave insult to those people who have worn this uniform, who fought for all Americans in every state, whether in New York State or in Kansas, where I'm at today. I think we need to be treated as equal citizens in all of the states. And let me tell you one thing, Cenk. Gay people, from the very first moment that we're born, are told subliminally that we're never going to be good enough. And the Democrats or President Obama to tell me that I am not good enough because I'm not democratic enough or because I don't donate enough money, I think is a perpetuation of that second-class citizenship, and it really irks the people deep down in their core.
Brian, how do you balance this out, right? Because it is a fairly long list of accomplishments for President Obama on the gay rights issue, probably more than almost on any other issue. On the other hand, you know, Dan makes a good point. Why do I have to accept anything less than marriage equality?
No one should accept anything less than marriage equality, and that's why I'm here in Albany fighting for it in New York. And we should point out this is an extraordinary moment for us. As you mentioned in the opening, we're on the precipice of passing marriage equality in New York. We expect a vote shortly. We're cautiously optimistic that we're going to win. We have an extraordinary governor, Andrew Cuomo, who's been championing this. We have the people on our side with support at over 60%. And we've created quite an amazing movement in the state. Look, there's no question the president should support marriage equality. That having been said, no president has done more for LGBT Americans than this president, than Barack Obama. And the list is impressive, from a hate crimes bill to repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which, you know, Dan Choi, Lieutenant Choi, did a lot of work on, and we commend him and we're grateful for that work that he did on that. And very soon, lesbian and gay service members will be able to serve openly in the armed forces, and that's a result of our president, and it's a result of our president cobbling together a bipartisan coalition of Republicans and Democrats to repeal that. And of course, most recently, the president has said that he will stop defending the so-called Defense of Marriage Act. He's also said that he's evolving on the issue. We want him to evolve all the way, but when you look at the totality of his record, it's clear to us that the president deserves to be reelected, deserves to be supported, and commended for so much of that work.
So, Dan, you know I'm a progressive who likes to keep the president's feet to the fire. You know that, right? But Brian makes a pretty good point. That is a long list of accomplishments.
No, I actually disagree, and it's not impressive because when we judge a president, we should not say that this president is so amazing that he's better than George Washington with his powdered wig. And we judge a president based on the demand for equality as well as the promises made or kept or denied, and I don't agree with his assessment of how Don't Ask, Don't Tell actually did get erased. It actually hasn't been erased yet, and until I can finally say that this uniform is not only the uniform of straight Americans or white Americans or eighth-generation Americans. This is the uniform of all Americans, and I can serve my country again. Then we can celebrate. But right now is not the time, Brian, to celebrate. I would take a page from Dr. Martin Luther King's playbook. He did not endorse a president named Eisenhower or named John F. Kennedy or Lyndon B. Johnson or even Hubert Humphrey in 1968. What kind of lessons can we learn from the civil rights movement and apply them today? If anybody is tolerating the silence of this president on our marriage equality, as Brian, you're working so hard out there, you deserve that battle buddy of President Obama, particularly if he's going to say that he's a fierce advocate. If you're going to keep on giving money to him, then you should watch out. Maybe we will see, just as we did in 2009, a Rick Warren pop up again. This is the way that the president treats those people who put themselves on the front lines, and I don't think I want to give my endorsement cheaply. I don't think I want to prostitute myself to a president's agenda because I'm an American and I am good enough. For anybody that says that that's not good enough, they are the ones who are perpetually indulgent and perpetually dissatisfied.
All right, Brian, real quick, 10 seconds here. Isn't this the way to get change, though? And hasn't the gay rights community done a great job in getting change by putting a lot of pressure on, as Republicans do?
Look, there's no question pressure needs to be put on, and we're putting pressure, and we're here not celebrating, but working very hard up in Albany to pass marriage equality in New York, which we fully expect will happen.
I got you. Unfortunately, we got to leave it right there, guys.
There's no question.
I'm sorry we're out of time. But you guys are great. Lieutenant Dan Choi and Brian Elder, thank you so much. We'll be right back.